Hello, welcome back. My name is Dr. Christopher Gennari, and in this episode, we do Singapore from 1945 to 2000. So Singapore is a city-state. It's a city at the end of the Malay Peninsula, and it is its own country. It gains independence from Britain in 1965. So, as you know, it was a British port that Britain took from Malaysian sultans as a stopover point and a control point to reach Hong Kong, to reach China. And so in 1965, it gains its independence. Since that time, we've essentially had one-party rule, which is a democracy, technically. There is a democracy. You are allowed to vote. It is a free election, but it is what is called directed capitalism. It is capitalism with a lot of government regulation, and it is democracy with essentially one party. And for many, in the post-1980 reforms, it was Singapore of all the different countries that was seen as the model for China, of a way for China to modernize its economy without having to have European-style democracy, without endangering the rule of the CCP. So Singapore was seen as this model for China, especially post-1980. And especially post-1989. The idea of the economy is that it's export-driven. It relies highly on foreign investment and a highly trained workforce. The Singapore government invests a lot in its people. High levels of education, so that Singapore citizens can move up the job hierarchy. There are not a lot of farmers. There's not a lot of room in Singapore to do things like farming and low production value jobs. And so Singapore has, maybe more than any other country in East Asia, poured money into developing its human capital. It has become the non-Japanese banking center of Southeast Asia. And it's a good place to live. It's 9th on the Human Development Index that's done by the United Nations. The United States is 13, Japan is 19. So by 2010, 2015, it is better to live in Singapore than in the United States or in Japan, on average. Singapore is the 3rd largest port in the world, and so it continues that 18th century job as being a way station on the way between East Asia and to South Asia and Europe. So it continues to be that trading hub, this connection. What is the result? You have a low corrupt dictatorship with popular buy-in and improvement, which equals success. Singapore is not poor. It's got good healthcare. It's got one of the best healthcare systems in the world. It's got a good education system. It has a world-class airline, which only a few other countries in the world have. A national carrier, Singapore Air. It has a high level of investment in itself, in its economy. But there's little quote-unquote freedom, as defined as do what you want to do, go where you want to go. The American idea. This is not directed. It's not communism. This one-party rule that now directs people, puts people into these boxes. But there are lots of social control laws from everything from what you can say about the president or prime minister. I don't actually know off the top of my head. But the leader of Singapore, to the pollution, to garbage waste, to disposal of garbage waste. There's not a lot of land, and so there's a lot of rules. But you get population buy-in because they used to be poor, and now they're not poor anymore. And there's an argument that life in Singapore is better than life in much richer, or at least much larger, industrialized countries. All right, so that brings us to the end of Singapore. Development in a small place, lots of money, and a high-end investment in human capital to create high-end workers who then go into banking, trade, and other high-level service-orientated, high productivity, I should say, service-orientated jobs. So that though Singapore is small, it has one of the best lives you can live in the world. But what you give up is the American style or the Western style of freedom in order to get social cohesion. So thank you very much. Take care. Be safe. See you soon.